Today I'm going to be showing you the best camera settings for cinematic footage with the Sony a6500. I've had this camera now for over 3 years and I've been using it for freelance photography and videography. I think it's fair to say that I've tried quite a lot of video settings with this camera in terms of how the image looks, and the one that I've landed on now is definitely my favourite. I think it makes the colour tones quite smooth, and I think that it makes the light quite soft, so that's why I like it. I might make a video about my photography look settings, so if that is something that you're interested in, let me know. I just want to add a disclaimer that I am not saying these are the perfect settings or the correct settings. Honestly, it's down to preference. Also, a large factor of cinematic footage is what lenses you use, what lighting you use, filters, camera movements, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so now that's out of the way, how this is going to work is I'm just going to show you my a6500 menu and go through it page by page. Feel free to follow along or not, it's up to you. The first thing is on the first tab, page 1, set your aspect ratio to 16:9. Page 2, your color space, sRGB. Skip page 3 and 4. On page 5, focus mode I have on continuous, but it depends on your preference and project. I'll switch to manual if I need to, and my focus area is wide. Then you want to head to page 11. White balance obviously changes on what you're shooting, and here is the main one, the picture profile. Now mine is set to PP8. My black level is 0, my gamma is Cine 4. On black gamma, my range is middle and my level is 0. My color mode is pro, my saturation is 0, my color phase is 0, my color depth is all 0. On detail, my level is -7. I tend to add sharpening in post. That's it for tab 1, so you now want to head over to tab 2. My file format is XAVCS4K. My record setting is 2500M. My S&Q settings are both 50. My dual video record is off, and my AF drive speed is fast. Skip page 2 and 3 and head over to page 4. Steady shot is on. Skip page 5 and 6. I've got my zebras to 100, and set your grid lines to rule of thirds, and that will help you frame up your shot. So I thought I'd show you what I would do to color grade the footage from this camera. So I've got a clip in my timeline of the footage that I've shot on this camera with those settings, and this is it without any color correction. This is it after I've finished with it. So there's not too much, and it's quite subtle, but you know, there are just a few things that I would do to make it look a bit nicer. And we'll just get an adjustment layer. I never color grade onto the actual clip because I like to then see before and after, but that's kind of up to you. So first thing I do is I always white balance correct. Now, sometimes it gets it really good, but sometimes it doesn't quite do it how I want. So I will then adjust their correction to how I like, and already that's kind of a lot better. And then I will then bring up the saturation. I always bring up the saturation with my footage, and I always add contrast, but I like that it kind of gives me the option if I want to or not. So if it's built into the camera already, then I don't really have the option to change it, so I always like to add, you can't take away. So I'll add my contrast to like 20, and I just slightly raise the highlights. This is the thing, it depends on the clip. I'll do another clip as well, which is with a different scene, so that I can show you. And then I add like a 10% sharpening. And then that's pretty much it. That's kind of ready for a LUT to be added. And then I just have a LUT that I like, that is very subtle. And then so you can see here, I've only got it on 10%. Because it can be quite intense. That's it at 50%, so it's like you only want like a really subtle kind of change, and then you think that might not have done much, but then you go in and out of it and it kind of just darkens around here and kind of makes it just a little bit nicer. So this is a clip from the other day that I took. The field was really foggy, so I thought I'd go out and try and capture something quite moody. So for this, add your adjustment layer, and it's kind of the same. So I will kind of white balance correct, and you kind of need something white for that, but if you haven't, then you can kind of do it by eye. and then I'll add saturation, contrast, and then depending on what the shot is, I guess, you know, might bring the whites down a little bit, and then add some sharpening, and then that's kind of already looking actually quite nice. And then I'll go in and add a LUT to this. But basically the whole point of this is to show that it doesn't need much color correction. You know, the thing is with S-Logs and stuff, it takes quite a lot of effort to color grade it, especially if you're new to it as well. It's a really good thing to learn, obviously, but sometimes you just don't have time. So this kind of tries to get it as close as it can be, and then you just add kind of what mood you're feeling. So I will add a LUT to this. So this is looking quite nice. It kind of looks quite creepy, which is kind of the vibe I wanted. And then once I've added a LUT, I will then go back into this and kind of go back into this and then adjust, you know, if I need to make this more saturated or not. I quite like it as it is, really. And then I might, you know, bring the shadows down a bit. It kind of depends on the shot, but what I'm saying is it doesn't need much, so that's why I like it. These are the settings that I use for all my work. Again, I'm not saying they're the correct settings, it's honestly down to preference, but they're just the settings that I use and I think they make the image look its best. You can use S-Log 2, but the base ISO for that is 800 and that's just a bit too noisy for my liking, but it might work for you. It's always good to have a play around with it and work out what works best for you. If you found this helpful, then feel free to leave a like. If you have any questions, then don't hesitate to leave them in the comments.